sacrifice everything every single day, bust my balls, have a 15-person team working around the clock to help me become the best boxer possible. And when I do something...
Jake Paul just got absolutely knocked down by Mike Tyson after trying to cancel the fight he was practically begging for. Can you believe it? Millions of dollars were on the line, fans had already bought tickets twice, and Jake thought he could just walk away like it was no big deal. It's like he assumed everyone would be fine with him pulling out, as if we'd all just forgotten about the money, the hype, and the fact that he was talking a big game. But nope, Tyson wasn't about to let that slide. Jake tried to run, but instead he ran straight into Tyson's fists, and trust me, those punches were more than just a friendly reminder that you don't mess with Iron Mike. It was brutal, and honestly, he had it coming. So, here's where things get interesting. Jake Paul didn't just get knocked down in some random street fight or a press conference gone wrong. No, it all happened in a sparring session that Jake practically walked right into. And believe it or not, this wasn't just some casual, let's throw a few punches type of session. Nope, this was a desperate attempt by Jake's camp to save face after things started spiraling out of control. You remember that chaotic press conference, right? The one where Jake's ego took a hit so hard it probably left a dent in his brand? Yeah, that one. It shook him so bad they thought a sparring session with Tyson could somehow patch things up.
Money. The shit talkers get all the attention.
Yeah.
The shit talkers get everything. We get a bad rap, but we get everything else.
Yeah.
Now, this wasn't just about Jake wanting to punch it out with Tyson for fun. This whole sparring idea came after Tyson had already humiliated Jake in front of millions. Tyson, the guy who doesn't need to prove a thing to anyone, shows up on Logan Paul's podcast and just straight up calls Jake a loudmouth. I mean, Tyson didn't even sugarcoat it. He basically said Jake's more interested in running his mouth and counting dollar signs than actually doing anything worthwhile in the ring. And coming from Mike Tyson? That's not just some casual shade. That's like a knockout punch to your entire personality. For Jake, who's built this whole persona on trash talk, hearing Tyson rip him to shreds like that, it wasn't just a burn, it was a full-on roast. And you know Jake's not the type to sit there and take it. His ego probably exploded on impact. Tyson's words weren't just insults, they were like little missiles aimed directly at Jake's pride. So what does Jake do when his entire sense of self is hanging by a thread? Does he back down? Nah, that's not his style. Instead, he throws down the gauntlet and demands a sparring session with Tyson.
On it.
Hey, you're the one that wanted 8 2-minute rounds. You want to make it 10 threes? Don't talk to me about shape. Don't talk to me about shape.
Stay in shape, be all right.
So here's the thing. Tyson? He's not just some old-school boxer who's out there taking every challenge like a bored retiree. Nah, he's got years of experience seeing through guys like Jake, who talk big but can't back it up. So when Jake throws out this challenge, thinking he's being all tough and bold, Tyson sees it for what it really is, an opportunity. Jake thought he was stepping into the ring to prove something, but what he didn't realize was that Tyson was already a couple of steps ahead. Accepting that sparring challenge wasn't just Tyson being nice, it was him setting up Jake for a reality check. Tyson knew exactly what was about to go down. He was going to put this cocky kid in his place, not through trash talk, but through pure, unfiltered punches. Jake's ego was about to get tested the hard way, and trust me, the results were going to be painful. Now let's be real here. Jake walked into that ring thinking he was about to get some easy practice in. Maybe throw a few jabs, look good for the cameras. But nope. Tyson wasn't there to play patty cake. What was supposed to be Jake's big redemption moment quickly turned into a nightmare. The second the bell rang, it was clear. Jake was swimming way out of his depth. Tyson, who had been holding back at first, started turning up the pressure. And Jake? Oh man, he was scrambling.
My arms are sore as fuck today from all the...
It's one thing to get knocked down in a big public fight, but this all went down in the middle of a dimly lit gym, with only a few insiders there to witness the moment Jake Paul got absolutely humbled. It was August 22nd, 2024. A date Jake's probably trying to erase from his memory, but for everyone who saw it, yeah, that one's burned into their brains forever. Jake had his usual swagger going, thinking he could stand toe-to-toe with a legend. I mean, the guy had beaten some tough opponents before, so why not Tyson, right? But that's where he messed up. He completely underestimated what it means to step into the ring with a guy who has spent decades dismantling opponents like they were toys. Tyson wasn't in the ring to mess around, not even close. The second that bell rang, it was like flipping a switch. Jake, all full of himself, came out swinging like he was going to prove something, like he thought he could outbox the guy who could probably knock a planet out of orbit with one punch. I mean, the confidence was dripping off him. But Tyson? Tyson wasn't impressed. And then, it happened. The aftermath was straight out of a bad movie, the kind Jake would never want to star in. 1 minute, Jake's all cocky, fists up, full of swagger, and the next, boom. His body hits the floor like a bag of bricks. The gym went dead silent. The trainers, managers, whoever was there, they just stood there, jaws dropped, eyes wide, like they'd just seen something unbelievable. This wasn't just a regular knockdown, this was a full-on obliteration. Tyson didn't just win the round, he made a statement. A loud, punch-you-in-the-face kind of statement. Jake Paul was in way over his head. But here's where it gets even better. That knockout didn't just knock Jake's body to the floor, it shattered his ego into a million pieces. This is a guy who's built his whole image on being untouchable, invincible. And then Tyson comes along and floors him like it's nothing. You could see it in Jake's face. The physical pain? Yeah, sure, that was bad. But the real blow? That was to his pride. And Tyson? Oh, he noticed. He saw something way more troubling than just Jake getting physically beaten. Jake was falling apart mentally, right there in the ring. His punches were weak, his movements sluggish, and that unshakable confidence he's always showing off? Poof, gone. And Tyson? With all his experience, he didn't miss a beat. He saw those skyscraper-sized red flags. Jake wasn't just physically outmatched, he was mentally crumbling. His energy was zapped, his punches were all over the place, and he was folding under the pressure like a cheap lawn chair. And Tyson knew this wasn't just a rough day for Jake. This was the real deal. Those weaknesses Jake had managed to hide before, they were out in the open now for everyone to see.
Do you believe that I will actually beat Mike Tyson?
Yes.
What the fuck?
You really think that you're gonna beat Mike Tyson?
Yeah. I'm nervous.
Then came the moment that really threw Jake off balance. It was August 25th, 2024, during one of Jake's typical training sessions, where he was probably strutting around thinking he had it all under control. That's when his manager, Nakisa Badarian, dropped the bomb. Tyson had pushed through some serious changes. The KO-only rule and the kicker, no corner advice during the rounds. It hit Jake like a sucker punch he never saw coming. For a guy who walks around like he's invincible, suddenly realizing this fight was more about survival than winning must have been a cold, hard wake-up call.
I lose faith in my generation and my peers and like us as a society and in a world just when I see that type of stuff and that type of stupidity. Yeah, it just sucks. And it sucks me that.
But oh, did the plot thicken. Insiders began leaking details to the press, and suddenly, things weren't looking so great for Jake. According to sources who spilled the beans to ESPN's Mike Coppinger, Jake had actually agreed to fight on Tyson's terms, no fuss. Turns out the original contract included clauses that allowed Tyson to make changes, depending on the fighter's conditions in the lead-up to the match. And guess who didn't bother reading the fine print? Jake, who was so eager to land the fight and the big payday that came with it, had apparently just brushed over those little details. Now those same clauses were coming back to haunt him, leaving him with basically zero legal wiggle room. Suddenly the narrative flipped. Instead of seeing Jake as the poor victim of Tyson's rule changes, the public started looking at him as someone who didn't do his homework. Someone who, let's be real, underestimated the whole thing and was now paying the price for it. The legal fight wasn't just about the rules anymore. It had morphed into a battle for Jake's credibility. Could he handle the pressure? Was he really up for a fight at this level? The cracks were starting to show, and just like that, the stakes got even higher. The world was left wondering, what's Jake Paul going to do now? Every tweet, every post, every insider leak was just adding more fuel to the fire. What started as a fight everyone thought would be a spectacle was now hanging by a thread, with Jake's reputation, his career, and pretty much everything he'd built up to this point on the line. The gauntlet had been thrown down, and Jake was running out of moves.